What's up, everybody? It's George back again with Warp Charge Gaming. Excited to be here today to talk to you about the new Tau Codex. I gotta say that I am very excited and pleased with the book. There's still lots of mysteries within. I've gotten in, I did a tournament and about 5 other games, so I've had a little bit under my belt at this point. I've gotten to experiment with a few different list variations, but I know that there's still several units that I haven't even took yet, and that I'm struggling to find vision of why to take particular Septs or particular units at all. Okay, so I'm hoping that between this video I can give you kind of my thoughts on what the book is overall, is what I've been kind of falling in love with and wanting to run, what I've attempted, and what I think that hasn't been, it's fell short, that there's room for opportunity, and hopefully to get some good advice from you at large, and that we can learn together to be the best we can. Or perhaps you're not even looking to play Tau and you find this series informative so that you can be better prepared when facing them. Knowing thy enemy is half the battle in the 40K universe. We talk about being a good player. A lot of that is knowing what to expect from your opponent. So I hope you find some value. I'm gonna just kind of rant and rave in front of the camera here about the different things that I know about the book, and yeah, let's go from there. So you have what you do in every book. You have these different Septs, just like you would have different legions or chapter tactics or craft worlds, right? And these different Septs grant X, Y, and Z worth of abilities. I've struggled to find other Septs beyond the ones that I prefer to take. And there's a few reasons, restrictions and limitations that lead to taking particular Septs, okay? So when you're studying a book, you're looking at the stratagems, the warlord traits, the psychic powers, and then what kind of overall abilities does the army have, and based on what version of the faction do you take, and the characters, right? How they break down, what are the auras that you can get, and how do those combo with the stratagems with the units, right? Also, there's always the cost effectiveness. What is more efficient for the points? What do you get more out of? So Tau, always being a versatile army as far as the loadouts, it's very customizable. There's also the war gear and the relics, if you will, are their signature systems in the Tau, are challenging to find ones other than the obvious to take. So let's get into it, okay? So the overall ability that Tau has, they have for the greater good, where they can overwatch someone within the Tau Empire at 6 inches. Cool. And that's something to describe right off the gate. So we have Tau Empire, which is the book overall, and then we have the Tau Sept, which is a legion, if you will, of the Tau. So Tau Sept and Tau Empire are the two different things to differentiate between whether you're talking about Sept abilities or overall army abilities. And that can trip you up at first. You definitely want to pay close attention to what affects Tau Empire versus Tau Sept, because that's where the restrictions and limitations begin to apply on what determines your choices for your detachments as far as their Sept. So at first I tried to mix match. I was like, I'm gonna take 3 different Septs. My favorite being Borkan plus 6 inches. It's so easy to match that up with sniper drones and the striker teams. Basically, rapid fire and heavy weapons get plus 6 inches. Pathfinders have the ability to bring an accelerator drone, pulse accelerator drone, that gives you an additional 6 inches. So you can get up to 12 extra inches on your pulse weapons. Apparently, I've read online that doesn't apply to the long pulse rifle of the sniper drones. You can just use the Borkan ability to give them plus 6 from their 48 going up to like 54 inches, rapid fire. So when you combine, the idea of rapid fire with these additional inches, which was already far, 30-inch gun is the standard pulse weapon on a fire warrior, pulse rifle, and that gives them a 15-inch rapid fires, a little different than the obvious, the bolters that are 24 inches, 12. Now, cranking that up to plus 12, going up to 42 inches on a standard like 7-point model, that is pretty powerful, not only for the double extra shot, but then combine that with Cadre Fireblade, an extremely inexpensive HQ for how awesome it is. Cadre Fireblade is 45 points to come with a marker light, a pulse rifle himself, 2-ups to hit, and on top of that, giving other units that are the same Sept firing their pulse weapons, whether pulse carbines or pulse rifles or pulse pistols, those will get an extra shot at half distance. So with the Borkan plus the pulse accelerator drone that comes with the Pathfinders, you can add 12 inches to the range of your standard fire warriors, giving them 42 inches with a 21-inch rapid fire that gets an extra shot from Cadre. That is awesome, okay? add the sniper drones in there that have now been improved from the index state by gaining the on a 6 to wound a mortal wound. Before, they weren't that great really at all, because yeah, it was cool that you could get a lot of sniper shots at a far distance, but they were AP nothing. There was no bite to it, and you know, even though they were strength 5. So now we get to keep our strength 5, which is a rarity in the sniper profile, and on top of that, 6s to wound give us a mortal and plus another save to make, just like standard sniper on rattlings and things of that nature. Now, these guys are 54 points for 3 of them. You add a marksman to it and the drone controller ability. Drone controller used to be that you would be able to fire the ballistic skill of the model that was carrying it, but now it's just simply +1 to hit to drones. So additionally, you take the marksman, who gives another +1 to hit to sniper drones. A marksman himself being only 25 points is also a nice marker light platform, particularly over, say, Pathfinders, because the Pathfinder is the more expensive marker. The more inexpensive marker light to pay for. It is the marksman gets to have the character profile. He's an elite slot character, extremely cheap, and he is pretty consistent marker lights because he's also, unlike regular Tau, a 3+ to hit. So a 3+ to hit character with a marker light that gives +1 to sniper drones, not a bad situation. Give that the Borkan Sept, and now you went from a 36-inch marker light to a 42-inch marker light. All of this is great stuff. So that was where my mind was like, oh, that's gotta be the secret sauce there. I mean, that's what I'm going to, right? So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do Borkan. Thought the Fire Warriors were all that I was going to deck out on. Unfortunately, I only have like 45 in my collection. Now, I say only, you know, I'm thankful to have that many, but really it's like, you know, your mind goes like, well, I should just take all of these. It was the most efficient thing I could take with a ridiculous range. And on top of that, there's a thing, my favorite Warlord trait is that on 6s, anything visible to your Warlord, you choose an enemy unit each turn, and your army, when firing against that unit on 6s to wound, become an extra -AP. So this can make you get a pretty good number of -AP shots when you start getting in that half distance, which is up to 21 inches when you're talking about pulse accelerator drones and Fire Warriors. So I really thought that was going to be what I was going on there. What ended up happening though is that in the tournament, for instance, I went against the Custodes, and they had no trouble. You know, at previous events recently, I played against the Custodes, and it's been not much concern. But that was when I was running Space Wolves that are with pretty much toughness 5 army-wide or better with a 3-up Invuln. I was running a bunch of Thunderwolf Cav, and toughness 5 with Invulns had no trouble dealing with Custodes. They have Hurricane Bolters, and they get like some 16 shots a model, 2-ups to hit. It's like they're really good at shooting small fire, but it's all strength 4 and it's all AP nothing. So it's like not that big of a deal unless you're Fire Warriors, is kind of what I found. They got blown off the board. For instance, the Custodes have a very impressive alpha strike with their movement. They can do a huge movement right to your face and basically just, you know, unload their whole army and then be hoping to charge even. So you, usually being Tau, you've got a nice screen, you're ready to be charged, but even with 9 troop slots filled, 45 Fire Warriors, you know, that was pretty child's play for the Custodes to clear them off the board with their 4-up armor save and get to go against me. Now, here's the thing is that if I had gone first, it would have helped a little bit, even though they could hide and then come out, and they could have definitely mitigated a lot of shots. But with all these different detachments I've been taking a lot of bodies. So, you know, I'm ending up with like the 18 roundish number of how many drops I have. And that has been very difficult to go first at all in against many elite armies, or heck, even armies that expect to go second are finding that they have less drops than I've been bringing with the Tau. So that was something that I was scratching my chin on. You know, I was ending up with 6 characters as I took 3 battalions. So then I graduated into, like, say, a brigade concept. And I started to think that there were certain things that made me lean towards the Tau Sept wholeheartedly. I started to decide that that was what I wanted to take, and because I was finding it more and more difficult to take what I wanted combo-wise and not be of the Tau Sept, and to be hurting myself overall to try to push in a detachment of something different. I'm starting to fluctuate and grow a little bit, sort leaning towards the far side enclaves, but just a little. And that's something we'll talk about more. So here's why the Tau Sept has became the thing. It's because Kalyan and Manka, right? These are awesome pre-game ability, or once per game abilities that a commander can activate. So Kalyan would be to reroll all failed hits to anybody within 6 inches of the commander, as long as you don't move at all. Okay, so no moving, and you get to reroll your hits. So Tau become disgusting when they're good at shooting you. That is the thing that mitigates just destroying everyone, is being 4-ups to hit. The moment you drop 5 marker lights on something, you start to be like, oh, that was bad. Like, dang, dude, sorry about that. Like, it gets nasty. When you get 3-ups to hit, or 3-ups to hit rerolling ones, whatever, that becomes very strong. And to be able to get a +1 to hit isn't easy in the book. You have to pay for it for sure. But to reroll all your failed hits, that's powerful. That's real powerful, especially when you're in the right range. Like if we're talking about the +12 on your fire warriors, that can be really good on that turn, that first turn, especially if you have that ability for them to move midfield at you and then just unload in them, right? However, the thing that's very important to pay attention to there is that the commander's Sept is the only Sept that he can affect with his Kalyan or Manka. Okay, so that means if you have a mixed detachment, you're not going to be able to use this ability army-wide. You can only use it once, and it's only going to affect that Sept within 6 inches. So if you have a fire-based concept, that fire base needs to be of the Sept of the commander, or that effect is almost, you're wasting some of the potential that's there. Okay, so we're talking about the Septs and Manka and Kalyan, and particularly why the Tau Sept keeps appealing to me over all other options. I'm starting to believe, and I always listen to my intuition, trying to understand, put myself in the brain or head of the designers of the Codex and the game designers at Games Workshop. I try to make assumptions often of how, if I were to write their rule set, where would my head be to keep the game in a balanced place, but also to give them their unique potency, right? And I believe that there is tricks within the book of combos that are predestined, and that you can discover what they are, and that some things might be better than others, right? As much as we'd like to believe that everything is a viable option and just as good as the next, it's all about how well you play. There's definitely going to be some things that are more optimized, more effective, more efficient. And granted, the way you play with that comes into the situation as well, but I'm always digging for that. So we were talking about how Kalyan can be so powerful. When you get +1 to hit, or the ability to re-roll your hits, the grossness of the Tau go extremely up, like way more. So when 3-ups to hit rerolling ones from 5 marker lights, you start to see goodbye whatever you're targeting. Especially when there's several ways to get +1 to wound in the Tau Codex, whether you're using and this is again, and going back to the Tau Sept, one of the best stratagems in the book is got to be focus fire. 3 command points, and your entire army can add 1 to the wound roll against a target. It makes your fire warriors that are strength 5, you're wounding strength 8 on 4s. And you're basically anything up towards to toughness 10, which is a very unlikely scenario anyways, and you're shooting them with fire warriors and being forced to hit. It gets pretty gross, especially, just taking other weapons that are usually 3s to wound and now 2s. You can really light some things up with that, on top of having 5 marker lights on a unit. So you can't use that unless you're Tau Sept. That's another thing, that you are losing potential the moment that you split your detachments up. Now, not all of your army is going to be able to take benefit of that, maybe when you need them to the most. So again, I'm finding it difficult to pick anything but. And so I'm like, okay, Kalyan and Manka, very good. Let's say that I want to do Kalyan twice. I've been contemplated all broadsides and stealth and shield drones. Obviously, drones are important, especially with these big robots. Even with fire warriors, you can protect them with these drones, and the feel no pain can be pretty sweet. Talking about, especially, say you combine it with the 6+ feel no pain that comes from the ethereal or Anva. Now you got a 6+ plus your 5+, and that's after you already make your armor save anyway. So you're gonna have a 4+ armor save, 6+ feel no pain from the ethereal, then a 5+ from the drone. That all gets to be pretty nice on the survivability side, especially when you're talking about broadsides and riptides. And oftentimes when you see those, I don't know, a storm blade or a bane blade or a storm lord or you know, anything with some heavy weapons across the battlefield. Let's say a pylon by the Necrons, right? You're not nearly as worried about those turn 1, turn 2 shenanigans about them going before you and blowing your big toys off the board because of the protection of the shield drones. Adding that in with the ethereal is even better, obviously. Okay, so I'm into the Tau, right? But then the side thoughts that I've been having have been a couple. One, I've been really contemplating the Sept that gives you counting as in cover. The negative is on the subsequent turn is when it takes effect. So you don't even get to activate it on turn 1 until after you've gone. So if they go first, you're not counting as in cover. It's only on a turn that you don't move, the units that have, or that Sept that do not move, then the subsequent opponent's turn is when they count as being in cover. So that can be really strong on your 2-up characters. Now they're, when they're a -3 weapon, they're still a 4-up save. That's pretty awesome. On top of that, your fire warriors, they kind of need it. You know, 4-up save isn't much to be proud of, and it can go away quickly with some heavy bolters. And a 3-up save would be a much stronger thing to have. And you really want your fire base to be intact, and you can't really utilize cover that's all over the board if you want to be within range for your fire base to get the most Overwatch possible. Okay, so we got 5-up Overwatch. There's a ton of Alpha Legion in the Alpha Strike in the meta, right? We have the best stratagem in the book, I think, which costs 3 command points, but it lets you +1 to wound army wide. Okay, then the reason that Tau Sept is important is that you know, you're going to want to do Kalyan or Mon-Ka, but a lot of the best characters are from the Tau Sept directly. And the moment that you take one of those characters, you can't put them in one of your detachments without it being a pure Tau detachment. Otherwise, you're not going to get any Sept ability at all because you made it undivided, right? So, for instance, Long Strike. Long Strike is a beast. You know, he's a 2+ to hit +1. So even if they have a -1 modifier, you're still 2+ to hit. You get double the benefit on marker lights. So if you have 3 marker lights on something, it counts as 6. You also get +1 to wound against monsters and vehicles. Plus, he's a 2+ to hit. Long Strike is a beast. He has some great weaponry, 8 smart missile shots plus either the railgun or the ion cannon. I typically go with the ion cannon. I think it gives you a little bit more versatility of weaponry there. And a really strong unit to take, but he is Tau Sept only, okay? The characters that you end up taking, again, because of the Sept rules, like for instance, the Dark Strider, he's a great character, very much like a Cadre Fireblade. Same amount of points, I think he might be 42 points, or maybe it's the other way around, 42 and 45. I think he's 45 points and Cadre's 42. But he, Dark Strider, will allow you to fall back and still shoot with your fire warriors. Awesome ability to just get for being within 6 inches of him. And on top of that, you can pick a unit within 6 of him that's of the same Sept and be able to have +1 to wound against a target. So you just pick any one of your fire warrior units, so it's basically infantry of Tau Sept, and they can have +1 to wound that turn just because he's in your army. And he comes with a marker light with a 2-up to hit. So Dark Strider rules, but he's Tau Sept, straight up. So like if you have him and you have Long Strike, already you have 2 Tau Sept HQs that even if you were to bring a commander that would give the Long Strike, a second shot, it would have to be a Tau commander because otherwise the Kalyan or Mon-Ka only affect the Sept that you took of the commander. So that gets to be a real, well shoot, I guess I'm taking Tau, right? On top of that, I've been wanting to take I want to do Kalyan twice. There's only 2 commanders that allow you to do the Master of War, Kalyan or Manka, or they're different masteries of war. If you want to do it twice, there's only 2 commanders that offer it, and their Septs are already preset. So there's no way that you can choose for yourself to Kalyan or Manka twice any other Sept besides the ones that they come with. And those 2 commanders are Shadow Sun and Commander Farsight. Farsight can do the Manka, which would allow everybody to basically advance and shoot as if they hadn't moved, which can be very powerful as far as a combination with that. Think about the ethereal ability. The ethereal ability basically you can only reroll 1s with the ethereal if you haven't moved, and now you don't count as moving even after advancing. So that's pretty interesting. That's got me like thinking about how can I utilize Mont Cobb more. But then Shadow Sun is the one that lets you do Kalyan twice, and I think rerolling to hit twice per game is extremely gross. I mean, you're talking about better than 5 marker lights on everything, because not just reroll 1s, +1 to hit's great, but I'd rather have 4 rerolling than even 3-ups reroll 1s, I think. Check me on the math on that, but still, it's really good. And I mean, even on top of that, you can have 5 marker lights on something, reroll, and then who cares about the reroll 1s? Just be 3-ups rerolling, and make sure you're going to kill that target. So again, though, you have to take the Tau Sept if you want to be able to affect everyone twice with Kalyan using Shadow Sun. So again, your hand is forced into the Tau Sept. I believe that there is some sort of trick to the trade here of how I should mix in either potentially Borkan or my gut leaning towards the Farsight Enclave. Okay, so we've gotten to the idea here that I'm all about the Tau Sept because of the focus fire stratagem. I know it costs 3, but I'm determined regardless to always be taking 2 battalions or a brigade. I think you need 9+ command points to be able to utilize the book in the way that it was meant to be the most potent. And the 5-up Overwatch with as much Alpha Strike that's out there, plus as bad as it, like one of the worst things that can happen is that the Tau are attacked, right? So, you know, you want to be able to have that Overwatch be completely ridiculous. You want to take out what charges you, or damn near get to it. And taking +6 inches, even with the ability of the pulse accelerator drones and a bunch of fire wars going to 12, or the effect that you can have on sniper drones, I feel like isn't as strong as being able to have an army-wide +3 to hit. Not to mention that Kalyan and Manka, the Master of War abilities, can't be utilized except on the Sept that the commander is. So again, in order to maximize the potential of that output, your army being of the same Sept is the most potent potential you can do. And then on top of that, if you want to be able to do it twice and you want to take Shadow Sun, you got to be Tau anyways. And then some of the best characters, Dark Strider, Long Strike, particularly, are of the Tau Sept already. I think the stratagem alone has been potent enough for me to want to do that. And then again, when you're wanting to utilize the Cadre Fireblade, which he's very good in his own right, especially for the point cost, even just being the person that shoots marker lights, he only affects the same Sept as well. The most recent evolutions of the list is to start adding in some a Cold Star Battlesuit with fusion blasters, as well as a couple deep striking commanders. Now we know that we can only take 1 commander per detachment now. You're still typically taking 3 detachments, there's still 3 commanders. This leads me to why I would ever take crisis suits. I'm really struggling to find the points for points value of them versus say broadsides, right? Broadsides at 150 points with the range and amount of output, the amount of shots that they get. The only thing that seems desirable is to basically have fusion blaster crisis suits, right? But then taking regular crisis suits over commanders, getting a 2+ to hit versus a 4+ to hit, it's really hard not to want to not take commanders instead. And I think that's something that we were already familiar with. And I think 3 is really enough to take out some prime targets with some alpha strike of your own, especially when you combine them with either the recon drone or the stealth suits. Particularly the stealth suits with the infiltratability is probably the easiest. Now, of course, these stealth suits have to infiltrate as part of their deployment. It's not before the game begins. It's not after one of your movement phases. It is as you deploy them, that is when they infiltrate, and they must be outside the enemy deployment zone and within more than 12 inches away from the enemy. If you put them down early, this can get you pretty darn close to the enemy deployment zone because they don't have very many units on the board yet to be able to block you from being up close. The cool thing about the stealth suits is that they're going to allow you to manta strike the things that you put in those tactical reserves as a low altitude deployment, allowing them to drop within 6 inches of the stealth suit, or it's actually a beacon that they put out. They put out a homing beacon at the beginning of your turn. So at the start of your turn, you put out a little drone, and at the moment it's your enemy's turn and they end their move within 9 of it, it goes away. So you got to use it the turn it comes out, and then you can appear within 6 inches of that drone without regard to how close you are to the enemy. So I feel like I'm on the right track to finding some all-comer scenario list here that will be able to deal with what comes against me for the most part. I think that the 3 commanders with the fusion blasters, one being the Cold Star, is a potent element of that. And I'm all about the 3 to 4 Riptides, or, I've had 3 Riptides, 3 broadsides. Of course, you got to have shield drones, and I've been finding that you need 15 on the minimum. I've been looking, for 3 Riptides, even 3 Riptides and some broadsides. I've been bringing as little as 15 and trying to squeeze usually up to 20. I think that's the kind of the sweet spot. 15 to 20 shield drones kind of does the trick, especially with the ethereal 6-up Feel No Pain. But let me know how you might situate it. I've been starting to realize that yes, I need to bring the drones with the suits themselves so as to limit the amount of force orgs I'm filling up with the fast attack slots with the shield drones, because again, I'm coming up with so many drops that I'm almost making sure that I go second every time. And Tau can be quite devastating on that first turn, especially when you decide to, here they are in range and you drop the Kalyan on them. Again, Shadow Sun, Tau Empire, or Tau Sept, but does get to do Kalyan twice, and that's got my chin stroking on that. I don't have a Shadow Sun model, but not afraid to proxy it and to figure out if that's what I want to do. But it's all about the expense at that point. It starts to get so expensive that it's like, ugh, is it worth it for the sake of losing almost 16 shots by the way that your points start to work out and you have to eliminate a broadside or maybe even a Riptide. So mostly all my lists have been autoplay with 3 Riptides. I played around between Pathfinders, Marksmen, and Cadres. I really, you really only want to care about focus firing like a singular big guy down a turn. And so with the +1 to wound stratagem, I'm really trying to just land 5 marker lights out of a turn, it feels like, because the +1 to wound or to hit is crucial to really get a nastiness happening, especially if they have -1 modifiers. It gets to be really painful on the Tau. As far as the support systems, Velocity Tracker, I haven't got to use it very much, but I've been starting to fall in love with the concept of getting a free 3-up to hit against anything that has fly. Just like there's a lot of Alpha Strike, I think there's lots of fly keyword out there, and that is an excellent thing. And for like broadsides and crisis suits, it's 2 points to get +1 to hit against flyers. 10 points on a Riptide. So I've definitely been considering that more often. I think target lock on Riptides is pretty much critical to be able to move with the heavy weapons and not be -1 to hit. So target lock and pretty much counterfire defense system on the Riptides has been my go-to. I've messed around with early warning override on like broadsides and tried to put them on the outskirts. Personally, I haven't been able to make early warning override work for me, as I find that you put them inside of your fire-based bubble, and then you have your screen of fire warriors and Kroot often, and these screens go far enough out that you're no longer catching when they're 9 inches away in their Alpha Strike deployment, are they 12 inches away from the broadside, especially when if you don't put a broadside on kind of all 3 corners, your front, like your middle, left, and right, then they can choose one of those sides to come in and still stay out of that 12-inch range. And even if you bring 2 or 3 broadsides with that ability, you're only gonna often get just one of them to even activate if you deploy it right in the first place. Or they choose to just not even deploy in such a way that you get to do it at all. So I found that early warning override hasn't played out well for me, and that it's difficult to get that 12 inches, and that target lock is, again, being on the move with the broadsides and shoot can be very potent. And again, Monka can take care of that as well. So you can't forget about utilizing that, because you really only usually need to move once or twice to be able to get within range of your needs. And that's where Velocity Tracker can come in as well. For 2 points, you save on points on the overall when you're trying to min-max your opportunities there. And for 2 points, you're +1 to hit against flyers. So your broadsides can just be great flyer hitters, right? So I haven't necessarily picked out all my favorites on that one. Okay, so we've gone through the characters a little bit now. We've talked about Dark Strider, Long Strike, and Shadow Sun, and how those are all Tau Sept specific. So beyond that, I do like the ethereals are tight. One specific reason why is because they affect Tau Empire. So despite whatever steps you wish to take, you're still going to be able to have that ethereal universally affect your army, even if you take multiple Septs in one army there. So the ethereal is cool, and even considered, a few times I'll take two, one to reroll ones and one to give a 6-up Feel No Pain. Again, that can be really potent when mixing with because it's infantry and battle suits, which is also riptides and broadsides, and you can be able to give them the 6-up Feel No Pain with the 5-up Feel No Pain from the drone as well. You're talking about shield drones. But beyond that, so ethereal will be your universal choice, Cadre Fireblade, but remember that the Cadre is only gonna affect the Sept that he belongs from. Once again, kind of forcing the hand to want to be more monotheistic with what Sept you choose. And then the commanders, Commander in the Cold Star suit is extremely awesome. A free 40-inch move, basically. You got 20 and then 20 again. You have assault weapon, so you're just -1 to hit on 3s, but you can take war gear to be able to not be -1 to hit, just take target lock. Or you could take a detachment that lets you ignore that anyways. It looks like Tau has built in a pretty strong alpha strike that there's kind of that far sight, that Monka style play that's like go big, go home. And I feel like a mixture of that with the backfield fire base is what is kind of that core way to rock and roll with the list. So take on the most different varieties of what could come your way. But here's where Tau Sept becomes even more appealing. Not only is the 5-up Overwatch, that is very, very good. There's so much alpha strike we've seen. At the Adepticon, we saw the Tyranids alpha strike extremely hard. With the Tide of Traitors and Alpha Legion and Chaos, there's more than one way to jump directly in your face on the first turn. So 5-up Overwatch can be extremely powerful, especially with the support system of counterfire defense systems that I like to put on the Riptides. I definitely am a huge fan of the Riptides. I already had 4 from 7th edition. I used to play the Riptide Wing, and I did have a lot of fun with it. I like the big robots. The big Gundams are awesome. Those were the models and the crisis suits that appealed to me of the Tau army, and why it was the first one that I actually got way back when. So I've been excited to get to play them again and have them be worthwhile. They're definitely very strong for their point costs, and their Nova Reactor abilities are sweet. So to knock off some of my favorite stratagems, the ones that I'm going to play almost every time, all the time, is Focus Fire, which is +1 to wound for all Tau Sept against a target enemy, and then Uplink Marker Light. Instead of just 1 Marker Light, you can turn it into a D3 +1. Okay, and then a lot of the other ones are circumstantial, but some I use all the time because of the Riptides. This one I feel like could be strong. Like if I knew that my Cold Star battlesuit wasn't going to, that has the fusion blasters, if I know that I'm not gonna move him in and try to take something out on the beginning of the game, then I plan to use this stratagem, command and control node. Basically a commander chooses not to shoot and instead gives reroll to wounds to another battlesuit. So I think this is totally cool. If I'm not gonna alpha strike somebody with a Commander Cold Star suit with fusion blasters in the face, then I do intend to not shoot and give a Riptide reroll to wounds. Automated repair system, cost 2, another reason why you need a healthy amount of command points, because damn sure you wanna do this on your Riptides, and that's gain D3 wounds back. Super potent, very demoralizing. You're already taking 1 wound every turn to try to use, get your 3-up invuln, and that is what I've been doing mostly, is the 3-up invuln. which has me thinking, you know, I have been thinking more about when I deep strike the fusion blaster suits. I got 3 commander suits with fusion blasters, 3 apiece, that I should put, that I could do the Nova reactor of 2d6 in the charge move. So then I can Monka and get a free move in advance, and then in my charge move get another 2d6 on top of that. And that could really help the Riptides go support the deep striking commander suits. Because I would love for them to be able to drop in, blast some tanks in the face, and then have 3 Riptides backing them up with counterfire defense systems and reroll Overwatch, or reroll Overwatch and 5s to hit. That would be fantastic. So I'm trying to combo that so that the stealth suits, the commanders, and the Riptides are all together in mid-board right off the gates when I come in hot to blow things up. While having a fire base, you know, of fire warriors, right? Stimulant injector is awesome. Act as if you have not lost any wounds, basically, even if you're like down to 1. So you make those wounded Riptides kick ass again. Always using this double charge on the Nova reactor, so it doesn't cost you 2 mortal wounds. You just get to have 2 choices. So you pay your mortal wound, you get 2 choices, is how I'm understanding that, which I think is cool. You know, again, the Tau Sept, almost in every way, seems to be the obvious choice. The more I try to mix match my Septs, I feel like I lose potency, as you want to be able to take the most optimum potential possible of whenever you do your Kalyan or Monka, which is Sept specific to the commander, or the most awesome focus fire stratagem that's 3 command points to be able to give +1 to wound to pretty much your whole army against a target. That's highly effective. All right, guys, so I've been rambling for a while now on the Tau. This is my first time getting on camera and just trying to talk in depth about what I like about a book. This is one of the first books in 8th edition that I, besides the indexes, that I've digested as deeply as I have, and I've really enjoyed it. I'm a huge Chaos fan, and for whatever reason, I didn't dive as deep as I was in love and Twitter-pated with the Space Wolves at the time. I can't wait for their book to come out and go crazy on that as well. Definitely highly anticipating the Orcs. And hey, you know, you've seen a lot of what's in the backdrop in the studio here. If you would like to see me talk more on my strategies, thoughts, and feelings on any particular codex or army, if I don't play it, then I know somebody that does, and I'd love to have the conversation rolling in this way, where we just get down to the brass tacks, nitty gritty. What kind of list do you like? What war gear? What traits? What warlord? What stratagems? What combos? Right? What works? What doesn't work? I want to be able to give you as much insight into the hobby and to be able to share what the effort that I put in to be as knowledgeable in it as I can be. So love learning, hope to learn from you, hope you learn from this, and it's been a real pleasure. Let me know what you think of the Tau out there. See you on the battlefield. Cheers.